Between Europe and Asia, economic dialogue, humanitarian missions, multi-vector operating and the search for compromises in the world arena. How else does Kazakhstan participate in the development of the modern world? For more details, watch the program Kazakhstan International Vectors. Today you will find out who helps Kazakhstani students to study abroad, how is higher education security provided in the world, and which countries are the most popular for foreign students.
The first prototypes of universities appeared in the countries of the ancient East more than 1,000 years BC. Back then, getting higher education meant studying philosophy, poetry, as well as the known at that time laws of nature, minerals, celestial bodies, plants and animals. Since the 10th century in Salerno, Bologna, Paris, there were places of pilgrimage for inquiring minds called universities, in which law, Latin, philosophy, medicine, mathematics were taught. In the oldest in the English-speaking world, Oxford University, education was conducted already in 1096, and 100 years later, the first foreign students appeared there. Today, academic mobility is gaining momentum. Thus, in 2016, about 8 million people were educated outside their homeland. Good day. Hello. Have a seat.
The CIS Education Company helps students to obtain higher education abroad. The founder, Zakida Ametova, admits that it was her personal experience which made her engage in this business. When she decided to go to study in China 10 years ago, she simply could not find the one who would help her to do so here in Kazakhstan.
And at that time, there were no companies that could offer me anything useful or something that suited me perfectly. Those companies which were operating at that time in Kazakhstan, they worked with Europe, with the US, where the education is very expensive and not every person could afford it.
For just a year of companies operating, Zakida Ametova helped about 70 students from Kazakhstan to receive higher education outside their homeland. The geography of the work is quite extensive, from Asia to Europe, from America to Australia.
Our students go to foreign countries. They are mainly Asian states as China or Korea. Here we have Singapore and also Malaysia. Also we send students to the countries of Europe, the US, and also we have people who aspire to go to Australia.
И также у нас есть тоже, кто стремится поехать в Австралию.
Local managers can provide a simple consultation and also help with the registration of documents and even accompany the student to the place of study. The main mission of the company is to assist. CIS Education Group plays an important role, offering only the most interesting educational opportunities.
For example, I can show you the brochures of one university which is a laureate of 200 best universities in America, even the 100 best universities in America. There they have a very interesting program. You can study for 2 years in Malaysia and 2 years in America. Thus, it is a very good opportunity to receive a double diploma. About 1,500 students who studied in Malaysia for these 2 to 3 years could make a transfer to America, not even on a fee basis, but for scholarship, that is, to the grant program.
In addition, the company develops its own exclusive educational programs and proposals. Kazakh students have the opportunity not only to study but also to apply their knowledge in practice.
Lianungang is nearby the city of Nanjing, which is a city near Shanghai. A student can study there. There are not many people there. It is a calm city. Development is going on. At the same time, near the college, there are many factories, so students can study and practice there at a time. It is very good. That is, they have factories which do not look like the regular factories. They are small and well equipped. It is necessary to know everything, to be able to push necessary buttons, and that's it.
The most important thing in studying abroad is the university itself and the teaching staff. However, such moments as the availability of necessary infrastructure. That is why, before concluding an agreement with one or another university, the company representatives themselves go on scouting.
We work everything out ourselves. We check everything. We look for the availability of food and accommodation on campus or nearby, because there are such cities in China, which are beautiful, but, for example, without central heating. They are damp, and in winter, when it's cold, the children get sick. Therefore, we explain all this to our parents, because for us the most important thing is that the student will not only go there, but that the student will stay there and study there. It depends on a person. This is the first stage of a cultural shock that he or she needs to pass through. The second stage is we look at the climatic conditions.
Было недорогим.
As in any other work, there are difficulties here. For example, there are often problems with obtaining a visa. It also happens so that the student cannot adapt in a foreign country.
В каждой стране
Each country has its own laws, its own foundations and its own provisions, and you just need to get used to it. If the student goes, if he chooses this path, he must adjust.
выбрал этот путь.
Qualitative education is the foundation of the steady development of any state. In all developed countries, intellectual labor, knowledge and information bring tremendous income and are therefore valued above all. That is why the modern Kazakhstani society faces one of the important tasks: to create a promising educational system capable of preparing the younger generation for life in the new conditions of a global civilization.
Наверное,
Probably it's not a secret that there is not a single state in the world where education, science as a factor of socio-economic growth would not be given the leading role. In this respect, of course, education is the factor that ensures the development of human capital. Our president has repeatedly said that a new model of economic development must be based on a new qualitative education, and therefore the competitiveness of the country primarily depends on the competitiveness of young people.
молодых людей.
The second five-year plan of the state program on fortified industrial and innovative development adopted in Kazakhstan from 2015 to 2019 is estimated at almost 8 trillion tenge. It will focus on such priority sectors as ferrous and non-ferrous metallurgy, agrochemistry, machine building, food industry and oil refining. This will require completely new technological approaches that cannot be realized without quality human resources. So only the manufacturing sector by 2030 will require millions of specialists. This obliges the national system of education and science to ensure both the maximum effectiveness of scientific research and the high quality of training professional personnel.
The Kazakhstan 2050 state strategy identifies 4 main directions in the development of the Kazakhstani educational system. They are raising the level of national preschool education, the development of a system of training for modern engineering and technical specialties, active support of education by private business, non-governmental and charitable organizations, appropriate modernization of teaching methods themselves.
Thus, the Kazakhstan 2050 state strategy presupposes a high level of education of Kazakhstan people in order to correspond to the image of developed competitive state in the modern world. Now the domestic educational system faces the task not only to achieve the full literacy of the entire population of the country, but also to train highly qualified specialists who will compete with their Western colleagues.
Kazakhstan, I think, has, since its independence, increasingly established itself as a country which is very committed to peace, security, and quality education. And of course, we are very pleased to have Kazakhstan as an active member of UNESCO and educational programs in UNESCO. But of course, the fact that Kazakhstan is now a member of Security Council, I think, gives it a very important leverage to influence the international agenda when it comes to security issues and also issues related to educational security.
The accessibility and increase of the level of competitive general and professional education of the population are attributed to the strategic goals of ensuring national security of any country. According to the estimates of the World Bank, on average, 2/3 of the national wealth of developed countries is human capital.
The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development conducted research on the impact of education on the economic growth of the state. It turned out that increasing the education of society for one academic year provides an increase in the economies of countries by 5% in the short term and by 25% in the long term.
As the world practice shows, the low level of the employees' qualifications is the main deterrent to the growth of labor productivity. Therefore, in foreign countries, the preparation of literate professionals who are proficient in the profession acquires special significance. UNESCO, as the main international organization promoting education for all, works all over the world, including Kazakhstan. Its representatives believe that the spread of education is the surest way to eradicate poverty, improve health and people's well-being, stimulate economic growth, and promote civic responsibility.
So UNESCO works on these issues by providing policy advice to governments to make sure that we have the legal frameworks in place. We have quality frameworks in place. We work much on specific aspects when it comes to higher education. For instance, one of these targets of Sustainable Development Goal number 4 is a target number 4.7, which speaks specifically about education of global citizenship, education of sustainable development, and this is an angle to education that looks at students' abilities and skills to critically think, to adapt to circumstances, to understand these global issues in addition to the very factual knowledge that schools provide.
In the past few years, academic mobility as the main trend of higher education is gaining momentum. Since 2000, the number of students who received education outside their homeland worldwide increased by an average of 75%. Experts say that such internationalization in the field of acquiring new knowledge is an integral part of globalization.
Интернационализация образования. Ведь знания никогда в одном месте, как говорится,
Internationalization of education. Knowledge is never collected in one place, as they say. Knowledge has the property of spreading. And so, if our university corresponds to the international standards for its educational programs, naturally for foreign students, it is also very attractive. They also want to come to us, and the number of foreign students studying at our university is growing annually.
Количество иностранных студентов, обучающих в нашем университете, растет.
Throughout the world, there is such a thing as the partnership of universities. Thanks to such cooperation, for example, a student can study at the same university, get a double diploma, or go for several semesters to another university. Kazakhstani students have such opportunities too. On the one hand, it is a good motivation to learn English, because in the country it has been decided to introduce a trilingual system, and on the other hand, this is the cultural exchange so necessary for the all-round development of the individual.
There are many countries in Europe, you may have heard about Bologna process, for instance, who have very seriously considered the need for them to somehow harmonize at the international level the qualifications that schools provide. Because of the fact, on the one hand, as I mentioned, that students become more and more mobile. So it is important for students who have acquired a degree in England to return to Kazakhstan, and for the Kazakh authorities to certify these qualifications and sort of give an equivalent of a national system, so that the person can find a job and integrate the job market in the home country.
And if Kazakh students go abroad for knowledge in the field of natural sciences, foreigners come to Kazakhstan to study the history and culture of the whole of Central Asia.
Наши студенты многие едут в ведущие научно-образовательные центры Европы по таким специальностям, как
Now many students go to the leading scientific and educational centers in Europe to study material science, nanotechnologies, chemical industry and biotechnology. This is a priority for us. But at the same time, a lot of foreigners are interested in Central Asia in general, because the geopolitical position of Kazakhstan in the whole of Central Asia is such that, for example, political scientists, philosophers, sociologists, they're interested in the real situation in our country. And many foreign students come to our university especially to see and collect material, because no one knows Central Asia, its history and culture, better than our scientists. Therefore, we are open to all.
Потому что лучше, чем наши ученые, Центральную Азию, историю, культуру, никто не знает. Поэтому мы открыты для всех.
According to the Association of Higher Education Institutions of Kazakhstan, learning on bachelor's program at local universities in 2016-2017 academic year costs from 150,000 to 2 million tenge. Today there are more than 200 higher education institutions in the country, which offer a variety of specialists and even fall into international ratings.
According to the World QS Higher Education System Strengths Rankings, in 2016, the top 10 countries with the best higher education system were the United States, Britain, Germany, Australia, Canada, France, Netherlands, China, South Korea and Japan.
Despite many problems in secondary education, higher education in the United States is considered one of the best in the world. There are more than 3,000 higher educational institutions of different types. The annual fee for study there varies from $5,000 at the State University to $40,000 at Harvard. The German system of higher education is distinguished by the variety of types of universities. There are more than 400 higher educational institutions in the country, one-third of which are universities, and the rest are the universities of applied sciences. Getting the first higher education in almost all universities until recently was free for both Germans and foreigners. The CIS Education Group company has big development plans. Of course, they include expanding the client base and increasing the number of partner universities. But while there is something to do in the home country,
На будущее у нас, конечно, есть очень много серьезных планов. Будем к ним.
For the future, we certainly have a lot of serious plans. We will slowly but surely move towards them. The main thing we have now at the very first stage is the development and the opening of several branches in Kazakhstan and CIS countries. Also, in the future, we will develop not only the sphere of education, but also probably the field of internship more. For the internship, we want precisely students who have worked with us, so that they have the opportunity to practice and get a job in a large company.
Практиковаться и устроиться на работу именно в крупной компании.
today the system of unity of the three languages is introduced in Kazakhstan. International experts say such experience, when a student knows the native language Kazakh, the language of interregional communication Russian, and the international language English, opens up even more opportunities, both in obtaining additional education and for the future work. Kazakhstan as a whole has something to offer to the world.
But also, I think, for instance, the education of tolerance and mutual understanding, the openness to ethnic diversity that exists in Kazakhstan are something that could be promoted and should be promoted at international level. So we are very much looking forward to working with Kazakh authorities in this regard.
If Kazakhstan's goal is to enter into top 30 developed countries, then in our country there should be several world-class universities. These are the universities that create, to the greatest extent, contribute to the development of human capital. Those universities in which education, science and innovation are brought together, and those universities that are brands of their countries.
Которые являются брендами своих стран.
In general, there are many aspects of the development and improvement of both the system of higher education in the world and its security. Students should be sure that the diploma and knowledge they receive at the university bench will bring real benefits to both their bearer and the whole society. For Kazakhstan, as for other countries, the provision of quality education is an integral part of the economic and social development of the state